Hi everybody, welcome to another Geico 15-minute moto show. You know, it's not often that you get a chance to go ride from coast to coast, but if you'd like to go, I got the guy for you to go with. It's our guest here today, my old friend KP, Kyle Petty. How are you? The man in charge of the Kyle Petty charity ride for Victory Junction Gang Camp, and you go every year, coast to coast, border to border, one end of the country to the other. And you've been doing this now. I think you just about run out of roads to go on, haven't you?
Pretty much. And I'm going to correct you one place. I'm second in command. My wife Morgan runs the ride. She's first in command.
Yeah.
I'm the first in command when it comes to riding a motorcycle. But it is, we did this, and I've told this story 1,000 times. Harry Gant, Don Tilley, myself, Click Baldwin that owned the Harley dealership, and we just wanted to ride motorcycles from California to North Carolina. We told our sponsors, and they were like, no way, man. You're not taking a week and do that. And we said, we'll do it for charity. And they were like, greatest idea ever. Why don't you guys go do that? So for 25 years, we did it straight through. And then the pandemic and 2020 kind of waylaid us. So that's a year off. And then we're back this year with a small ride called Charity Ride Reunion. You can see it. We copied CCR's logo right here.
I love it.
Created Clearwater.
Yeah.
Okay, we copied that up around the bend. So we're doing a small ride this year. Instead of traveling long distance, we're going to stay at one hotel, the Homestead. We're going to travel out and back.
Hub out of there. And a lot of people don't maybe even realize that motorcycle riding wasn't just a passion for you, but it was a mode of transportation to get to your job. Because you'd ride to Dover, you'd ride to Michigan, your dad would go, Harry would go. This is how, instead of riding in the van back in the day or whatever it was, this is how you guys got to the Cup tracks.
Yeah, really, honestly. I got my first motorcycle when I was at 5.5, 6, right before I started first grade. So I've ridden my whole life. And coming back when I was 13 or 14, ran into Don Tilley at a rest area about 2:00 in the morning after the Daytona 500. I was with Dale Inman and those guys. And he said, hey, you tell your dad, Don Tilley said, hey. And I said, I told my dad, I said, this little short guy riding a Harley said, hey, man. He said, it had to be Don Tilley.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. I've just been riding my whole life. It is like, there were a couple of years I rode both races in California, Phoenix, Vegas. I mean, I rode 3 or 4 times a year. I'd ride the West Coast and back. A couple of times by myself, just so I could make time. But I'm going to show you something real quick. So
okay.
This is how long I've been riding motorcycles. When I started driving and went to Daytona, God only knows why my dad took me to Daytona for my first race. We went down there to test in January of 1979, and there was somebody else testing, and he gave me a T-shirt. I don't know.
Kenny Roberts, look at that.
Kenny Roberts, okay, 500cc world champion. That's an old T-shirt. I just found it the other day when I was going through some stuff. That's all the way back to 79. I was an 18-year-old kid, and Kenny Roberts gave me this T-shirt. So I've been around motorcycles for a long time.
That's an awesome T-shirt. That's a really good one, man.
I thought of you, man. I thought of you when I knew we were doing this. I'm like, I got to break out the T-shirt.
Oh,
man.
That's fantastic. Yeah, back there in the Yamaha days when it was all yellow and black, and that's when motorcycle racing at Daytona on the high banks was really an international deal.
And it was crazy, man, to watch him. I'm an 18-year-old kid in a Dodge Magnum, but to watch him go out and to watch those guys tire test, because they were tire testing for Daytona that year. It was fascinating to watch him through the bus stop, watch him come out of turn 4. My gosh, man. I mean, I'm sideways and backwards trying to hang on to this Magnum, and he's just laying on the tank, just getting it done, waving at people when he goes by.
Yeah, right.
Fascinating how talented that individual was.
I mean, obviously the family business was stock car racing, so you almost couldn't avoid it. But was there ever a thought you'd be a motorcycle racer?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, listen, and I say this, and I say it with all honesty, is I'm a motorcycle guy, not a car guy. And that's people just look at me like I've got 3 heads because I made a living driving a car. But when I was 10 years old, or at the end of 1969, basically, when I was 9 years old, they unloaded those Superbirds in Level Cross, North Carolina, for us to build race cars out of. Remember, they had just put a man on the moon. In my mind, cars were going to fly. Cars are going to fly, man. They're getting ready to build flying cars in Detroit.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. So that was the pinnacle of design. That was the top of the mountain. That was Everest for me, that Superbird. So at 10 years old, when you've been to Everest and you've been to the top, car stuff, everything's downhill from there. Yeah. But at the same time, I got a 125 Yamaha. And I knew that 250 was coming, and I knew I was a 400 in my future somewhere. So I was still climbing that ladder, man. So I just gravitated to motorcycles. There were a couple of guys, Tom Cox, Freeman Treadway, guys that rode Harleys that were from my dad. So motorcycles were where it was at for me.
Well, and your dad's quite the motorcycle rider too. Man, everybody thinks of the king as a stock car racer, 7-time champion, 7-time Daytona 500 winner, but he's probably logged almost as many miles, if not more, than you.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I wish I could find this. He won a Ducati back in, he won a race and they gave him a Ducati. And I wish I knew what happened to it. I've got a Yamaha Big Bear that he won by winning Atlanta in my basement or in my garage right now. He used to ride us on it, but he had a Rickman dirt bike, if you've ever heard of a Rickman.
Oh, yeah.
He had a Rickman, a bike that he rode. I rode the Yamahas, and Richie Bars, Buddy Baker, when Buddy drove for us. In the early 70s, Buddy would come from Charlotte and bring Brandon with him, and we'd ride, man, for days, it seemed like. So trail riding, street riding. I mean, we've just ridden. I don't know a time in my life when there wasn't a motorcycle parked somewhere in my garage or in my house.
So I mean, here you have ridden all over the country. What's the ride that Kyle Petty's never done that he wants to do? Maybe it's not a charity ride event, but just a dream ride.
Yeah, you know, listen. There's 2 rides I want to do before I go anywhere else. I want to ride from Fairbanks. I want to ride Fairbanks to Key West. You know, that's just something. You know,
yeah,
I mean?
yeah,
it is.
Ride
Alaska, and I've not been able to. I had it planned a couple of times, and life gets in the way, and things get in the way, and you know, you got to kind of plan those rides. You don't just jump on and go. The other thing I want to do in this country is, honestly, I want to lay out, and I've laid it out a couple of times. I just want to ride the border as close to the border as I can, all the way around.
All the way around.
All the way, just a huge loop. Listen, I'd like to ride around the world. I'd like to ride across Africa. There's a lot of places I would like to ride, because it's just, you see so much more on a motorcycle. You see the world, man, and people talk to you. I tell this story all the time. I can drive from here to Bakersfield, California in a car, and nobody at a gas station will talk to me. Nobody at a restaurant will talk to me. But you slide in on a motorcycle, and people come to you. They want to know where you're from. They check the license out. And the farther away from home you get, the more they talk to you. So it's an icebreaker. So and you know me. I talk to myself inside that helmet while I'm riding. So I'll talk to anybody.
And the other thing about it that if you've never done it, you don't understand is you smell the world.
Oh, yeah.
You feel the world. You hear the world when you're on a motorcycle, right? You feel the heat, the cool. You smell everything that's around you, and you hear things that you never would have heard when you're in the car, right?
Yeah. You know, this is a memory for me that I always have when I'm on a motorcycle. Is the feel of the air, the temperature change. When I was 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, there was a big hill down past the race shop in Level Cross, and it went across a creek called Polecat Creek.
Of course it was called Polecat Creek.
Polecat
what
Creek.
else would have been called?
And you could pedal, and you'd get going down that hill, and you'd tuck down between those handlebars of that Swin Stingray, and you know, they're way up here. And as you go across the bridge, the temperature would drop 15 degrees, it felt like, because you're right on top of that water, man. And then up the other side. And it was just that moment of just, oh man, it would just cool you off. And I've experienced that 20 million times in my life, coming out of the mountains, going up into the mountains, going through a valley, going by a farm, coming across a river or a lake. And it takes you back to be 6 or 7 years old and riding that bike down that dirt road.
Yeah. So is 200 miles an hour in a stock car at Daytona more thrilling, or do you get a bigger charge now out of, you know, blasting across Montana?
You know, that's a good question, but I will say this. I'm at that stage, and I've been at that stage a pretty good while. I will say that. It's not about speed. It's not listen, I'm a rider. And in the words of Don Tilley, I'm a motorcyclist. Okay. There's a lot of people that ride. Okay. There's a lot of people that ride motorcycles and ride to the beach, ride back and stuff. But you start talking to people who ride distance, and you start talking to people who ride for days and for weeks. They become motorcyclists. It's a different mindset. It's a different way of looking at the bike and what it does. So, I listen, there's nothing that I dreamed of when I was a kid more than hanging on that steering wheel and sitting in that seat and beating David Pearson and Richard Petty, because those were the guys I grew up with, in the 60s and 70s. Those were the guys that I idolized and watched. Everybody else was a competitor. Those guys were my idols, but when you sit on that motorcycle and you're out there, man, and you're riding, and you just get lost in your head, man. And it is a good place to be. It's the best therapy that I've had, and through all the highs that I've had and all the lows in your life. And when Adam's accident happened, I spent a lot of time on a motorcycle because that was a good place for me to be.
Yeah, we should clarify for those that maybe don't know, Don Tilley, legendary Harley Davidson dealer right up the street here in Statesville. I don't think there's anybody in the NASCAR garage that didn't buy their motorcycle from Don Tilley, me included. That's where I got my Fat Boy. So let's talk about Adam, because that's what kicked off Victory Junction Gang Camp, which is, for those that don't know, just Google it, look it up. It is, I get chills just thinking about everything you guys have done there, your whole family, and you spearheading that. Your son Adam, I considered a good friend and was fortunate to call his first ASA win and some of the other things that he accomplished. Such a lightning rod of a person. When we tragically lost him, that kicked off Victory Junction Gang Camp. That's how you memorialized him. And so much good has been done for so many kids since then in Adam's name. And that's where the ride came from. Yes. Tell folks a little bit about the camp and how they can get involved, whether it's through the ride or anything else.
The camp, I was fortunate. When Adam's accident happened, I had run some sports car races with Paul Newman. And we had become friends. And he was one of the first people I heard from. And we started talking about it. And Adam and I had been to Boggy Creek, so we had talked about camps. We knew what hole in the wall gang camps were. And Adam had wanted to buy a piece of property and build a camp. Let's quit going, the charity ride at that time, we were going to children's hospitals. Yeah. And so he was like, let's bring kids, let's build a camp. So as soon as his accident happened, that's where our heads and our hearts went, was let's help other kids. Let's do something. We've been incredibly blessed. Camp's been open since 2004, and through camp and taking camp to kids in the hospital, we've touched almost 90,000 kids and their families, which is fascinating to me, which is just mind-boggling to me. And I tell people all the time that, when I see the kids at camp and they've got that smile on their face, it's Adam's smile. So Adam's still here with me. So it's a special place for me. Mm-hmm. It really is. But, it's a place where kids can just be kids. Just be kids, man. I don't care if you have Crohn's disease or craniofacial, or you've been burnt in a fire or some tragic accident, you have certain forms of cancer, blood disorders from AIDS to hemophilia, sickle cell, asthma, whatever it may be. When you come to camp, you're in the majority. There's other kids there that have the same thing, and that's it. You don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. You make friends. And some of the kids that have come to camp and have made friends are lifetime friends now. It's fascinating to me that a kid comes to camp and sees another child with the same illness when he's 6 or 7, and now they're 22 or 23. They've attended each other's weddings. They've done so much together. Those are the things that was the intangible. You didn't know any of that was going to happen, but out of tragedy came a lot of blessings, and a blessing for me, especially. I will say that, because it's been a huge part of the healing process. And the camp is victoryjunction.org. It's totally free to all kids and their parents. So if anybody watching this knows a child who can benefit from this camp, please. We've seen kids from all 50 states. The racing community, not only NASCAR, but the racing motorsports community has gotten behind this in so many ways. So thank them. But please, if you know a child, it's victoryjunction.org. Just check it out and send the kid there.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. It's just remarkable. As before we wind this down, obviously the guitar is over your shoulder. Music is another huge part of your life. It's racing, motorcycles, and music, and the camp. Have you ever written a song about motorcycling while you were riding?
You know what? That's not about motorcycling. Okay. So this is the thing. And people will tell you that ride with me. I keep a Sharpie with me, and I keep a book in my tour pack. And while I'm riding, I'll get a tune in my head and I'll start making up a song. And I take out the Sharpie and I write it on my gas tank. I just write the lyrics
on the gas tank.
On the gas tank. I write the lyrics out on my gas tank. Okay. And I've written there. I've written on my mirrors because I've run out of room on my gas tank. So when I get to the gas station, I open up my book. I copy everything down with a pen in my book. I take a rag or a paper towel, dip it in a little gasoline, wipe it all off like a whiteboard, and I head out again for the next 225 or 30 miles. So I have written a lot of songs on the gas tanks of my motorcycles and my Harley.
There could be a Grammy Award winner on a gas tank, and you wiped it clean.
Got wiped away, man. And the bad part is I'll forget the tune sometimes, and then I've got the words, but I don't have the tune. So then I got to go back and make another tune. But listen, I do there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on up here. But you already know that.
I know. That I know. All right. Final question. Greatest motorcycle song ever written is?
Oh my gosh, man. I don't know. I don't know. I would like to say I haven't written it yet. Give me a motorcycle song. What's your greatest motorcycle?
Well, I mean, you got Steppenwolf, of course. Yeah. You know, favorite of mine would be Sammy Hagar when he was in Montrose, Bad Motor Scooter. Yeah. You know, I mean, that's a big one.
Did Dylan write a song after his motorcycle accident? That might be my favorite. I don't know.
See, I was always a hard rocking guy, right? Yes, so that's why I go with Steppenwolf, Hagar. I'm thinking Judas Priest Out on the Highway. You know, I'm way down that road over there. Yeah, you're standing on the stage at the Ryman doing your thing.
Yeah, I'm thinking if Johnny Mathis didn't sing it, I don't know.
All right, KP, before we let you go, remind us again how we can help out with the camp and the next ride coming up.
The camp is victoryjunction.org, victoryjunction.org. But you can go to KylePettyCharityRide.com or follow us on KP Charity Ride on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. The ride coming up is what are we calling it? Charity Ride Revival. I almost lost my mind.
On your hat.
I know it's on my hat. I'm trying to read my hat while I'm talking to you. Charity Ride Revival. It's a mini ride that we're doing for 3 days. Here in September 21st to September 23rd. So go to KylePettyCharityRide.com, check it out, or follow us on KP Charity Ride on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, man. And thanks for having me, man. This has been fun.
Dude, I wouldn't have missed it. We got to get your dad on here one of these times. And save me a spot. One of these years, I'm going to open up my schedule. I am coming on that ride. And folks, listen, I can't say it enough. Victory Junction Gang Camp. Just Google it, check it out. You will be blown away by what you see they've done there in honor of Adam Petty. And listen, if you know anybody out there with a bigger gas tank, please call Kyle. He needs some help. He needs a lot more room to write his lyrics down. Stay with us here on Speed Sport. We got a new episode of the Geico 15-Minute Moto Show for you every week. I'm Ralph Sheheen for my buddy KP. We'll see you soon.